So we're here with the blue collar coach, Danny Crouch. And Danny, it's coming to the end of 2024. And it's at this point of the year where a lot of people, whilst they're looking forward to a break, they also take the time to reflect on the year that was, start to think about what sort of changes they might want to make for the year ahead, and take stock of where they're at. And I thought this might be a great discussion touch point for us today to just have a look at where you reflect on the year, what sort of themes you saw come out of 2024, and what business owners, business leaders, managers might be doing to change their path for 2025.
Yeah, it's interesting. And obviously, different industries are impacted in different ways. I take, for example, I was listening to a guy on radio. He's in the building industry. He's got a building business, a construction business up here in Queensland, and he mentioned that over 3,000 builders went bust this year. So obviously serious issues there for the business owners. But then, how big were they? How many employees did they have? Where do these guys go? Do they find work quickly? Is there that much demand? And again, this turnover just sort of keeps going and going and going. The mining stats come out. I follow a lot of stuff from Gallup. I've mentioned them quite a bit. They do a lot of data and research in pretty much every sector. And these figures keep growing, turnover, absenteeism. We say it every time we speak, the Aussies are renowned for their having a sickie or chucking a sickie. And it's a serious cost to businesses. And if you look at it, as soon as, a couple of blokes or blokes and girls, I'm not trying to steer one side or the other, a couple of people take days off work, it's not just the cost financially, it's the impact it has on the rest of the crew. They've got projects to get through, and they fall behind by days because some people they're burnt out, they're tired, especially this time of the year. They're thinking, I've been going for 10 months, I haven't had a break. I've just got to take a day off and decompress. But rarely do people look at what stress that adds to the current workforce, and how that impacts the projects. And quite often managers and team leaders, more so the I don't want to say the poor leadership, but they're on that sort of level. They neglect to look at the pressures they put on their current staff when they're short-staffed. There's a couple of English blokes on social media. They read off their phones these stories of bad managers and stuff like that. And the constant reminder of people demanding, or these managers demanding, that workers come in on their day off because someone called in sick and stuff like that. And it's one of those things that not a lot of companies know how to identify and how to remedy. It's just, I guess it's more emotional intelligence, and understanding how people think and feel and how they then behave. Because if you've got high absentee levels and high turnover rates, and a lot of people go, oh, it's the industry, it's just the way it is. No, it's not. It's generally the leadership, or lack thereof is probably a better way to put it. And these things are easily solved. And some companies, I speak regularly about someone I know. He was working in IT. He had a team of around 50 people, and he had this growth and development budget. I'll pick a figure out. I don't know exactly what it was, but say it was 50 grand a year. Now, a lot of these managers and team leaders and whatnot, they're given budgets for certain projects. And the way it works is, if you don't spend that budget, then it gets cut the following year. So when you need these budgets, obviously some years it's quieter, you don't need it as much, but you can't afford to let that budget be cut, because next year there's a big project, therefore I need to do it.
You need it. Yeah.
He had this big growth and development budget for his team, and they were worked so hard, and like typical Aussies, you got a 37.5-hour week or whatever it is, but they're working 50, 60 hours a week. So if you say to them, oh, look, we're going to have a conference, and we're going to get some guy in and talk and build up the spirits and do all this sort of stuff, the first instincts are, what about my day's work? when am I going to do that? Does that mean I've got to stay back an extra 2 hours every single day to make up for this day? And then they, more often than not, they'll find someone that doesn't connect with their audience, or they don't really inspire them. Or what's even worse is they do inspire them. There's a big lift, a big kick. And for 2 or 3 days, they're on this high, they're going out there, they're killing it, but then it starts to deteriorate. And it actually ends up worse than what it was before they did the day. But anyway, I keep going on the weave, on the weave. Going back to this person, he had this budget and he struggled to spend it on some years. So he'd spend it on himself. He was really driven by personal and professional development. So he'd upskill himself, he'd do courses and all that sort of stuff. And that's obviously why he went through the ranks of promotions and whatnot, because he was so open to learning and developing. So yeah, it's a case of finding out what best works for your team. And quite honestly, it can be as simple as just having a team meeting or one-on-ones with them and saying, hey, what would you like? How can I help you? Rather
absolutely.
than you need this help, I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, communication is the biggest thing. It's sitting down, and in some of our industries, especially some of the industries that you represent, and I'm going to bring it back to construction where we started, it has been such a tumultuous, not just this year, period for the construction industry. We've had, I don't know if the exact stats are right, but they call themselves Australia's largest builder. Won't name them just in case I've gotten that stat wrong, but they were on the brink of falling over, and they did a lot of restructuring to survive. And a lot of builders, regardless of size, biggest all the way through to the smallest, but they've all been struggling. It's been a turnover in the industry, and it's really outside some of these leaders, like your sales managers or your ops managers or those leaders in the middle band. It's out of their control. And the thing that adds to their stress is all the talk in the media about the construction industries are in trouble, prices are going up, how hard it is. There's, these companies are going bust and so on. So your workforce not only has the stress of the project timelines, which you were talking about before, meeting to deadlines and delivering a quality product. Then they go home, they read, or lunch break, they read that their company's struggling or their industry's struggling. And that adds another stress that these leaders have to somehow manage. And they somehow have to keep the employer motivated. Yeah. So it's stress from inside the company as well as the external stresses. And I know that I'm leading somewhere with this, but I've kind of, it's just how do managers, going into 2025, what are some new approaches or skills, or might just be going back to basics, but how do managers motivate their team through not just the internal pressures, but the external pressures as well?
Yeah, good question. Good question. Yeah. It is a culture shift. And, we often hear, if you've got a problem in your company, it starts with you, basically. And it's about reflection and internal reflection. And I don't necessarily mean, let's look on what we've done in the last 12 months. I mean, how am I carrying myself as a leader? Am I treating my employees and my managers and my leadership team the way I want to be treated? Which reminds me of something. Have you heard of the golden rule? Treat others the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
There's actually an even better rule, the platinum rule. It's treat others the way they want to be treated. So just because you want to be treated a certain way doesn't mean they want to. So you could be career driven. You might want to rise through the ranks and you want to achieve an ultimate success and you want to pay off your home and you want to do all these sort of things. But what about your employees? Is that what they want? Do they want to rise through the ranks, or are they just looking for an income and to do the work successfully and be praised for what they do, and they see they're making a difference and they want to improve in human beings so they can get home and spend time with their families, and then there's a whole range of spectrum of why people want to work and do what they do. So I tend to find where I come from, a lot of people don't quite see that. If you can imagine, we all see the world through our own eyes, through our own lens. And too often we think, well, I believe this, therefore you must believe it. Or I saw it that way, therefore you must have seen it that way. So understanding that perspective personally first is knowing, okay, what am I seeing? Is that how you, Matt, is that how you're seeing it? And have that discussion. Because yeah, if there is a problem and you're one of the leaders, then it starts with you, and you've got to build on that and grow outwards, but also you've got to grow from the out in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of development areas, they always look at work from the top down, and who gets left out, who's the last one that receives it. So it's got to also work from the bottom up. And when we when we want to help businesses, we come in with a holistic approach. And of course, the business owners are like, oh yeah, but that's going to come at a high cost. We can't afford the time or the money. And it's like, well, actually, look at what it's costing you already. The national average turnover rate's at 12% and yours is at 21%. You're already paying this money out to the workforce. You've got a big HR team because you've got such a high turnover. You've got blokes. Again, I go back to blokes. It's typical Aussie thing. You've got workers that don't show up for work, and it adds that stress and strain to the rest of the team, and they leave. They quit because someone somewhere along the ranks says, well, really, we only need 10 in that team. Why do we need an 11th person? It's like, yeah, well, because you've got someone leaving every 2 months, there's only 9 people working generally at all given times. So either get better at hiring people or redevelop or regrow that culture within the team, within the leadership team and the groups. And yeah, it's a big overhaul, but you have to start somewhere. You've got to start somewhere. And most people wait until January with their New Year's resolutions. And it's like, oh, you know what? I might call that development guy on LinkedIn that I saw, or on Facebook. And there's like the phone's ringing off the hook. Sorry, you should have done it in December, sort of thing.
Exactly. And if you leave it to January, it's getting too late, because by the time you schedule something, you plan for it, and then you implement it, you're already into March. You're into March, April, and the ball's well and truly rolling.
Yeah.
I do want to circle back to a really good point that you raised about including the entire workforce, including everybody on every level. The thing about exclusion is it does develop fear. If you're hearing a lot of noise in the market, or the media, or any other source, but you're not hearing it from inside your own company, you feel excluded. Your thoughts then do jump to the worst possible scenario and start to feel fear. A lot of leaders, a lot of companies don't like to release information on their financials, or how they're going, or whether they're tracking, or whether they're hitting budgets, and transparency within a company is a very hard thing to believe in, to provide. But one of the strengths is, if you include everybody, and okay, here are our missions, here are our goals, here's our budget, and here's how we're tracking, at least then they know what's happening, and it takes that fear away. They don't listen as much to the rumors. They don't listen as much to the media, because they then trust their leaders. And it's a hard thing to do, especially if you're not quite hitting budget. But if you're out front and you're talking about and being transparent, you will get a better buy-in from your workforce, and they may even work harder. It might motivate them to, right, we're almost there. Let's go. Let's get this across the line. Then by surrounding the wagons, hunkering down, and just trying to weather the storm. Would that be an opinion that you share as well?
Yeah, definitely. And look, I see companies try and include everyone. And there's an interesting TED talk that it rings a bell, a guy by the name of Simon Sinek. He talks about the bell curve, and it happens in every aspect of business. So you've got the first sort of 15 to 17% of the early adopters, and then the innovators. Then you got the majority, and then you got the laggards that, they just hang back for the last minute. Now, what a lot of companies do is they just grab the whole lot of them and go, right, do the program. And 3/4 of them aren't interested. They don't know what it is. They think, oh my God, you've just rammed this down my throat. You're wasting my time, blah, blah, blah. So one of the most important things to us when we tailor a program to a business, let's say they have 100 employees, we strongly recommend, and we tend not to work with businesses that aren't interested in employing this method, is we make it voluntary to the whole group, okay? Because that majority of staff or employees, they want to see how it works. So you're going to have early adopters and the innovators within your group of, say, 100 staff. You invite them in, and they're going to be the ones that love personal development and professional development. They're career driven, blah, blah. Not saying the majority aren't. It's just they think slightly differently and they behave slightly differently. And you get them invested in these programs, and then they start to talk. And the majority see how these people are responding. And especially in our programs, we go through certain sessions where they start to learn a language, and they change the way they talk. And I don't mean, they start speaking Russian or Chinese or something like that. It's like empowering language and programming themselves in a way that they speak more inspiringly, and not only to others, but themselves. And you see a natural shift in their whole, I tend to use the word energy, but some people are like energy, here we go, it's meditation and voodoo and all that sort of stuff. It's not that sort of thing. It's like, if I'm sitting here like this, you can see I'm not really interested and driven, but if I prop myself up, all of a sudden I've got this energy and this body figure and body language and all that sort of stuff. So these employees, the rest of the majority, start seeing this, and they're either going to get on board, or they're going to be laggards that lag behind, or you're going to start to sort through these real actively disengaged employees, the toxic ones that create problems, that are looking to bring the company down. They're the ones that generally take more sick leave. They put a flavor where they could be ones that are causing your employees to leave because nothing's done about it. And don't get me wrong, they're not always the lazy ones. They can be high performers. They can be your top salespeople that are breaking all the records, and it goes unnoticed because, hey, those records are being broken. He's a good employee, sort of thing. Where in actual fact, one of their methods is to bring others down so they can actually be seen a bit more and shine a bit more. So getting back to the point, in my belief, professional and personal development needs to be growing organically and voluntarily. And that's how you gradually bring it into the system. And you work one-on-one with companies. So these early adopters, they'll stand out. You'll probably know who they are already. I'd speak to many team leaders and say, okay, we're going to make this voluntary. Who do you think is going to come on board? And they go, yeah, I know. And 9 times out of 10, they're right. Because they can tell who these people are without explaining the bell curve and all that. They have this sense of they know these people pretty well.
So, Danny, we're in the last week, essentially, of the calendar year, otherwise known as Christmas party season. What should effective leaders be doing during this week? What are some things that they should be focusing on with their team to round out the year on the highest note possible?
I'd be taking a good hard look at how you're rewarding your employees. And I don't mean bonus checks or buying presents. I mean having conversations, communicating with them, asking them what they think about the year, what they've achieved as a group, as an employee, as an individual, what they think could be done better. That's a really, really important one. Don't focus on mistakes and failures and all that sort of stuff. Focus on little areas of improvement and how people could do things differently. People naturally love to talk, and they love to come from a place where they believe they have knowledge. So if you give them that opportunity to share what they know and what they believe could be done better, that will give them a lift. That will shift their energy to say, oh, hang on, this people, they actually care what I think. Where so many employees feel like their bosses, all they care about is the dollars coming in, and they don't care one brass razoo about the person on the bottom of the rung.
Yeah, that's right. And the other thing is, the end of the calendar year, it's always that mad rush. to, if you're short on a project or if you've got a lot of clients that have end of year expectations, you don't really get the chance to enjoy and reflect on the year if you're pushing the team, even harder, and at a time where they're mentally fatigued, if you bring out the bigger whip, that's going to demotivate them even more, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Just a funny little story came to mind. So working with this company, massive national company, and Christmas time, every year they put on a Christmas party, but it's a breakfast. The business owner and a couple of the head honchos didn't drink alcohol, so they made it a non-alcoholic event. It was in one capital city, so from interstate they had to fly people in and stay in hotels. That was great. But anyone within the vicinity of about 3 or 4 hours of that capital city, they had to drive there. So they're leaving at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, what made it funny was obviously there'd be an office with customers coming in, and sort of shop fronts or whatever you want to call it, and customers would come in. So they couldn't shut down for a day. So every one of these outlets, one person had to stay behind. There were arguments over who got to stay behind because they didn't want to go to this Christmas party. And it was just amazing how wrong this company got it. And this was compulsory. They were forcing people to show up.
Wow. Isn't that just a backfire?
Yeah.
Surely they take that opportunity then to reflect on that year that they had.
And it was one of those things. I don't know if you've seen them, like, and I don't mean to mention the guy's name, but Tony Robbins, those sort of high performance motivational American speakers. It's a big American thing. You go along to these big talks and they get you up dancing and, you know, raving and doing all this sort of stuff. That's what they were doing at this Christmas party. You know, they're all running around the room, high-fiving each other, and people are sitting there going, yeah, I'm not interested in this. I can see some people like it and some people don't, but they were all forced to do it. And yeah, it's just, to me, when you're forcing something or you're making something mandatory, because you think, oh, we need more joy, we need more happiness, we're celebrating here, so we're going to make you dance, we're going to make you get up and, you know, sing or do something ridiculous. It does. And let me tell you, that company's turnover, I would have said at a guess, was around 40 to 45%.
Wow. That's huge.
Massive.
So I'm guessing from that, then you're not expecting the blue collar coach workshops. If you attend, you're not going to be dancing in the aisles. You're not going to be jumping up and down, playing heads or tails, or any team building games such as that.
There are team building exercises, but again, it's voluntary. So the way we have a model that we like to build, but then obviously we tailor it to the business and, you know, their logistics. Are they all in one area, or are they all, you know, spread out online and remote and all that sort of stuff? But ideally, the model we like to set is, say, fortnightly sessions one-on-one with an individual online, where we're focusing on that individual. How's their life? How's their job? How can they be better? And then we set up, either depending on the volume, we also train and coach individuals within the company, because, you know, our methodology, there are certain people that just embrace it and they love it. So they can either implement it into a weekly team meeting where it's just a discussion around their growth and development, or they run like a monthly voluntary meeting where they get together and talk about different specific strategies or something like that, purely on our coaching methodology. So again, it's natural, it's organic. It's, hey, it's going to be on the first Monday of the month at 4 o'clock. If you can make it, show up. If you don't. And there's sort of team building exercises, there's conversations, and it's about each other. They're not there to talk about a project they're working on or the manager that just left. It's about them embracing each other and engaging with each other to better understand how I think, how you think, how that person thinks, how they feel, how they respond certain ways, and all that sort of stuff. And it is infectious. I love it. You know, I loved it so much. When I had a coach, they taught me this, and I went, I've got to do this myself. You know, So I shifted careers into coaching purely because of being a part of this sort of stuff. It's phenomenal.
And everybody should have a coach in one way or another. Nobody's perfect at absolutely every aspect. And one coach they can be working with one facet for one of their clients and a completely different area for another one of their clients. And it's not one size fits all. It's some people can use it as therapy to begin with and get some things off their chest. Some people can use it as, oh, conflict resolution. How was I handling this? Is that the right way? So they can be retroflective on outcomes, and then others can use it for personal development. And I've set a goal for next year. I want to achieve this promotion, or I want to achieve this improvement in my team's success rate, or reduce turnover, or so on. Now's the time to be reflecting on that and reaching out and securing your coaching for next year. Now's the time to be setting your goals for next year so that you can finish the year on a high and shut off, because that's also the most important next step, isn't it? We've reflected on the year that was. Then we've got a break between now and the new year, and shutting off and really just not having any thoughts to work. Having that mental break would be the next best step that you'd suggest?
Yeah, for sure. I do write some posts for LinkedIn and whatnot, and quite often I'll get on a roll on a weekend or something like that. And obviously coming up to Christmas, I don't want to be too business focused. So you might find a couple of posts that I've scheduled around Christmas stories, and just implementing some of our methodologies into the story. So if you can read the undertones and what's there, it sort of diversifies. So for example, I did one on Santa and his 7 reindeers. And I wrote it in a way that the reindeers are all like different employees. And their goal is to, their project is to deliver the presents on Christmas Eve. And it's going through all the different characteristics and personalities of each of the reindeer. So if you can sort of connect that to how you might be leading a team and how the individuals sort of work in different ways, it's a bit of fun, and it's not, let's talk numbers and let's talk how we're going to save your business sort of thing. So look out for them if you're hearing this.
Yeah, I look forward to reading that one. That'll be good. Okay, so you've had a great turn off or shut down period over the Christmas New Year break. You're about to kick off the next year. You're feeling refreshed. You're up and about. You're motivated. What would be, and I'm not going to ask for top 3 or top 5 because I'm putting you on the spot, I know, but what are the most essential things or important things that leaders should be doing at the start of next year?
I hope this ties into what you're asking me. I would say look for the early adopters and the innovators, whether it's your customers, whether it's the project you're working on. And I don't mean the low-hanging fruit. I mean the people that you're going to connect with the most, and focus on them. So I know that in January, there are going to be business owners that are getting desperate, that need to look at their turnover and their absenteeism, and they're going to be in that majority. And they're going to come to me and they're going to say, sell me on why I need your product. I'm going to have to say, look, sorry, you're not my customer base. This is the busiest time of the year for me. I focus on the early adopters and the innovators who want to do something now. If you need to be sold an idea, you don't believe in it, you're not ready. And as a leader, you need to do that in your workforce. When it comes to employees, it's a little bit different because you can't just push the majority away, but they will become inspired by what you're doing with that core group. And the same works with your customers. If you're spending too much time with tire kickers, they're the majority that haven't quite understood what your business model is, or what it is you're selling, or what it is you're making, and all that sort of stuff. So that's why I love listening to this Simon Sinek guy. He'll talk about a topic, but it means so much in such a wide range of areas. I've implemented it into my own business. In my coaching business, I've spent so much time trying to explain and get that person on board that doesn't quite get it. And I've got to the point now where I just have to say, no, look, it's wasting my time. I don't want to waste yours. Come back, and you'll come back. I know you'll come back, and you'll probably be one of your CEO mates, or someone, or a competitor that you see starting to shine, and you'll hear through the grapevine, oh, they employed this big coaching firm that came in and restructured their whole culture. then that's when you go, oh yeah, maybe I might go back and revisit that idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. I really like that you've pulled out the who. So when teams sit down, they do their budgets, they do their business plans, they do their goals, and they set their end of year stretch goals and so on. They put some numbers on the board and they say, all right, this is what we want to achieve. How many businesses go that extra step and say, okay, and who's going to do it? And who from their team are they then going to enlist to lead that sub team or get that buy-in or motivate in the ranks or even in the trenches, you know, when, and for want of a better term, when you're at the coal face, the workforce that are out there actually delivering. There's a big step to identifying and empowering the extra workforce, isn't there? And getting the buy-in and getting motivation from day one.
Definitely.
I've sat in a lot of those target meetings, budget meetings in my career as well with different companies that I've worked with. I don't know, and I'm putting my hand up even as a leader myself. I don't know that I've ever or had anybody go to that level of planning, right, I'm going to implement this, but who am I going to implement it or enlist to implement it with me? To share that pressure, share the burden and all the benefits that come with it.
Yeah, it's that leap of faith sometimes. If you knew how to do it, you'd already be doing it. So you need to rely on others, whether it's internally or externally. You know, people sort of suggest now that you've got Google, you've got AI, you know, you can do it all yourself. But that's, you know, spreading a mile wide and an inch deep, where you should be focusing on bringing it an inch wide and a mile deep. So you focus purely on what you're good at and keep doing that, and then get to a point where your business can afford to employ people to do what you can't, because, or you're not best at. So for example, I'll give you a prime example. I've got an IT guy, he builds web pages, all this sort of stuff. But I'm energized by building web pages. It takes me 10 times longer to build a web page. I can do it, but I'm spending a whole Sunday building one page when he could do it in 20 minutes. So, hey, because I enjoy it, it's something I do on my weekends. Hey, no problem. But business owners and team leaders, they will spend that full day working on something when they've probably got someone in their team that can knock it up in 30 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah. A good example is, in our world, there are different characteristics and personality traits and this sort of stuff. There are problem solvers, right? Now, when I say that, yes, a lot of people are good at solving problems, but these particular individuals love it. They're energized by it. You know, they thrive on that solution, right? And then you've got someone who's really empathetic and wants to connect with people, right? So when you look at, say, a customer service role and a complaints role, some people have made the mistake of putting the empathetic person in the complaints role because they're trying to calm the person down, and the problem solver in the customer service area. It's actually better reversed around. The person who's complaining has got a problem that needs solving, and the customer service person wants to feel like they're being heard and understood. So by identifying these things, and we've had a company where the roles were around the wrong way, and within a matter of a week, these two were bouncing off the walls. They absolutely had a complete 180 on their career path and their excitement and enjoyment just by that one little shift.
Yeah. And so it's hard to look internally and come up with those solutions yourself. Sometimes you've just got to have somebody from outside come in and is trained in skills-based assessment, having a look at the overall picture and the bigger solution or bigger possibilities, and helping you implement those sorts of things.
Yeah. And I mean, even think about it. That problem solver, if they see the world as, hey, everyone has the ability to solve problems, they don't necessarily see themselves as being special and that being a great area. Now, consider how an employee feels. And if they're sitting there worried about losing their job, they're not doing great at customer service, they're not thinking, wow, where would my strengths be better served? Maybe I'll be better in the complaints department because I'm exceptional at problem solving, especially Aussies. We don't talk that way. We don't think that way. Well, the majority of people don't. So it's about someone else giving that person the opportunity to identify that. And I love going through this shift with people. and showing them that, hey, what you've probably been criticized about. So the ones that love problem solving, guess what? They're critical. They're, or they're always looking at problems. There's a problem in them, rather than, wow, this guy is so awesome at solutions and loves all that sort of stuff. So that shift in reality from them going, I'm bad, I just create problems, to, hey, this is a superpower of mine, I absolutely love it, I'm looking for roles where I can do that. And what's important on top of that is giving him that language to explain that to other people. Okay. So, hey, I just want to give you a bit of feedback here. Do you mind if I identify some issue within what you just said? Do you want to dissect that? If not, it's fine. Yeah. Rather than, you know what, there's something wrong with that. If you do that, it's going to break. You need to do it this way.
So, Danny, look, I've taken up a lot of your time, and there's been so many valuable bits of information you've already dropped as part of this. And I'm going to put you on the spot again. I know I've done that a lot today to you, but you're also, with your business, Blue Collar Coach and Choose Your Chapter, drawing to the end of the year. Have you spent any time reflecting on your year to date? And do you have any highlights that you want to share with the audience of things that have stood out for you in 2024?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I've already spoken about that. That realization of stop trying to chase the majority. That was a massive, massive learning curve, and really shifted my mindset towards focusing on those that believe what I believe, that their employees need to be looked after really well. I have a mantra here. If I take care of my people, they'll take care of my customers. And I don't like to use the word my, but in this context I will. Normally it's, we take care of our people, so you'll take care of our people. If that makes sense. So it makes a little bit more sense when you use it directly. Yeah, that's probably the biggest eye opener, because like he did a TED talk, Start With Why. I think it was about 15, 20 years ago, and it's probably my favorite TED talk. So anything he drops in, social media or on TED Talks or whatnot, I turn onto. So yeah, I can't think of anything else right now because that's standing out so much.
Look, and I know it's been such a big year for Blue Collar Coach and Choose Your Chapter. So many things and growth have happened for you. And I'm really looking forward to the journey for 2025. I know you've got some things planned. I know that you're going into a few new arenas. I'm not going to spoil anything because I've seen the plans you're putting in place, and it's really exciting where you're going. Some new developments, some new programs that you've developed as well, taking on some new clientele and delving into some new areas. One, which I know is a big passion of yours, behind the scenes as well. So looking forward to that dropping. And yeah, it's been enjoyable for 2024. I am wishing you the best of breaks, and have a great festive season or period. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the Blue Collar Coach 2025, bigger and better than ever.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for this opportunity. Obviously, sharing the word, getting it out there, and telling people about personal growth and personal professional development, and hopefully making the Australian workforce a better place and a more enjoyable and happier place.
Yeah. And just as that last reminder, I know our audience know it by now, but where can they find the Blue Collar Coach?
Predominantly on LinkedIn socially. So I tend not to use a lot of the other social media channels. Through the website, chooseyourchapter.com.au. Stay tuned in 2025, depending on development. Hopefully we'll have an app up and running, a coaching app, so you can all do self-paced. Email, mobile, you'll find all the contact details on the website. But yeah, hook up, DM, all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. And start your year off right. 2025, reach out to Blue Collar Coach, put some things in place, and yeah, like I say, start your year on the front foot. Thanks, Danny. It's been enjoyable chatting once again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers, mate.